curious to know
why I didn't take the potion.
Yes.
My heart wouldn't have withstood its tremendous shock.
I see. Now you have regrets.
Well, I don't know. I must admit, however, that your performance at the Towers was quite remarkable.
Yes, I was aware of you and your brother being there.
I wanted to destroy you.
Yes, I know that too. Let me straighten your mind, put it at ease about that man in the alley. It was the police that killed him. And you can take my word for it. Doctor, you foolishly assumed it was me.
How do you know?
By psychic powers. You see, the potion released from my soul an ancient wisdom, which is presently to be used.
What do you intend to do with your power?
My powers are of a divine origin.
Are you of a divine nature?
I can assure you I am.
And Dudley's talking about committing suicide, and you're responsible.
It isn't I. It's the man himself. He's self-facing self.
Well, how does this power of yours apply?
I'm only a tool, Doctor. A mirror, reflecting man onto himself. By control of the mind, I can hasten the retributive forces lodged in his unconscious mind.
I had suspicions it would work that way. I take it you can also control the elements in man's environment.
Yes. In that way, I can accelerate the process of man facing his own evil and good as well.
Well, I'm beginning to see what you mean. Well, now we must try. Something wrong?
No. To further relieve you, Doctor, if I misuse these powers, they can turn against me.
Misuse? Well, how?
Selfish gains. Personal power.
Well, how would that affect you?
A temporary loss of power and its devastating reactions. It's in the nature. Anyway, I must leave.
Oh, no, there's much to...
I'll be back. Your house is about to be blown to smithereens.
Welcome to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. I am half of your host, Perry Constantine.
And I am the other half, Derek Ferguson from beautiful downtown Brooklyn.
And I'm coming to you from beautiful Kagoshima, Japan.
All right.
Derek, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good, considering that the city is in a frenzy behind the corona. We're in the middle of the whole coronavirus thing, folks, for those of you who, might not be in it, but here in New York, we have price gouging going on. People are selling bottles of hand sanitizer for $500.
Jesus.
And yes, and masks for $5 a piece, and all kinds of craziness is going on. But hey, we shall survive.
Yeah, it's the same thing here in Japan. Like, people are going nuts over this thing. One of my jobs, they've moved all the classes for this month online. Schools have been shut. Well, this shows you, like, the amount of logic and thought that's gone into this, right? Because you've no doubt heard that the Prime Minister has ordered all schools in Japan to be shut down, right?
Right.
Okay, so here's the thing about that. The school year in Japan actually ends in, like, early mid-March.
Okay.
So when he said we're shutting down all schools in March, that's
it's not a big deal,
Right. Also, here's the other thing. So even though the schools shut down in March, they still have things like entrance exams for the high school year coming up in April. They've got things like student activities, club activities, and so there's still, the schools are not really technically closed. Also, he doesn't actually have the authority to close the schools, so it was just basically a request, and it's up to those local districts to decide if they're going to close them or not.
So
And then,
words,
it gets even better, okay? Because now these kids who don't have anywhere to go because maybe their parents are working or everything, the solution to that has been, we're going to give daycare centers stimulus money, and we're going to let them use the empty classrooms in the schools that we closed down. So basically, they shut down the schools, and now the students get to go to daycare in the schools that are shut down.
So in other words, him closing down the schools is basically just a big PR stunt.
Oh, it's totally a PR stunt, because he was so worried about how this is going to make him look on the world stage with the Olympics coming up and everything, and that's really what it's all about. It's just trying to save face so that he doesn't look bad before the Olympics.
And actually, that's a big controversy that's going on here in New York now about them closing down the schools, because of course parents are saying, well, wait a minute, I can't afford a babysitter, and I and I got to go to work. I can't stay home. I can't lose, pay, stay home, take care of my kids. So that's a big thing that's going on here now too, So
yeah,
it's and some people, they ask me, they say, oh, how come you don't take it? You don't seem to be taking it very seriously. I said, you got to remember something. I said, I've been living with scares like this since I was a kid. It was the swine flu. A few years ago. What was that other thing that was supposed to kill all of us? SARS.
Remember
yeah. SARS?
Yeah,
that was supposed to kill us.
The bird flu a few years back as well.
The bird flu. We had the thing with the mosquitoes with the Zika virus.
The Zika virus, yeah. Ebola.
That was supposed to kill all of us, So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not minimizing it, but I'm just saying, I've lived through too many of these things to start, hanging myself in the basement now.
Plus, you pretty much only work from home anyway, so you don't really have to worry about going out that much. So you're pretty much self-contained right there.
Yeah. I mean, right now, Patricia and I, now that the weather is starting to get warmer, we'll be going out more. But usually during the wintertime, we don't go out much at all unless we absolutely have to, like for shopping and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But, mostly I still, and especially now that, we've got, Netflix and Hulu and Amazon Prime and stuff like that. We don't even have to go to movies if we don't want to. So,
right, yeah.
So it's good.
Okay, so today I guess kind of rounding it out, because we're the next series that we're going to be doing is also kind of connected to Black History Month. But your pick for today was Abar, the first Black Superman, which is also the first Black superhero movie.
Yeah. I mean, this was brought to my attention. Somebody said, "Oh, you know what? Well, you ought to do this movie, Abar the Black." And I didn't think of it, even though I have seen it. I saw it a couple of years ago on Turner Classic Movies. Mm-hmm. They have their underground program of movies that they show. It comes on here like Friday night, Saturday morning, like 2 a.m. And they show all kinds of weird, out-of-the-way movies that you would never really see anyplace else. Mm-hmm. And Abar, the first Black Superman, was one of those movies. And it was a movie that I had heard about, but I had never seen. And, now it's on YouTube, folks. So after we finish with this episode, you can go on YouTube and watch the whole complete movie. As I did yesterday in preparation for this. Or if you have Turner Classic Movies, you can wait for it to come on there, and you can see it in pristine HD.
Yeah. And this movie's actually got kind of an interesting history behind it too. So first off, the title alone has been changed in different versions. Like when it was the brainchild of James Smalley, who was a black pimp from Louisiana, and Frank Packard, who was a white actor and screenwriter. And and this was really an example of, you know, the guerrilla filmmaking, which I'm blanking on the name of the guy. You and Tom talked about him on your show, who did this kind of guerrilla filmmaking. He did like Black Caesar and a bunch of other.
Oh, yeah. I'm blanking on him too. It'll come to me before then, yeah. But he did Black Caesar. He did Q, the Winged Serpent. Mm-hmm. He did a whole bunch of exploitation movies. And the legend is that what he did was that he drove around with a trunk full of screenplays that he kept in his car. And what happened was that, he would take a meeting. And he would bring a screenplay with him, and he would show it to, the producer or whoever. And if he didn't like that screenplay, he would say, hold on, wait a minute. And he'd run out to his car and get another screenplay. Get back. And he would keep doing this until he sold the screenplay.
Yeah, okay, so it was Larry Cohen. I looked him up.
Larry Cohen, that's the cat's name, yeah.
And, he would do this. Where, not only that, but when he was making his own movies, he gave no shits. Like, he did not bother with getting film permits or anything like that. Like, they just, so when I think it was in Black Caesar when Fred Williamson is shot and he's like walking through the street and everyone's looking at him all concerned. Those reactions are real. Those people were not extras.
Yeah, exactly. Those are actual people that are on the street. They're not extra. They just got out of the van or the car or whatever. And Larry said, okay, you're shot. You're stumbling through the street. You're trying to get help. Go. Mm-hmm. And they just filmed it. And people looking at them, and you're looking at them, and their reactions are 100% authentic.
Mm-hmm. And so James Smalley and Frank Packard, they did something similar when they did this movie, because Packard never bothered to get any film permits when he was directing this. And it was shot in the Baldwin Hills and Watts neighborhoods of Los Angeles. They had no permits, and in fact, the guys who played the motorcycle gang in the movie, they're an actual motorcycle gang in real life. They're an actual
motorcycle gang, yeah.
And when white police officers were called in to shut down the shooting, the motorcycle gang surrounded them.
And the white officers quite reasonably said, you know something, they're just filming a movie. Let's let them home.
Yeah, they didn't even bother getting out of their cars. They were just like, all right, we'll just stay here and wait.
Yeah, and that's what they did. Yeah, they said, listen, they're just filming a movie. Mm-hmm. Who are they hurting, really? Yeah. But there was a lot of that type of filmmaking going on back during the 70s. You had a lot of filmmakers, exactly. They would get permits and everything like that. And, they would just set up and shoot until somebody came along and said, okay, well, what are you doing? Oh, well, we're shooting a movie. Well, do you have a permit? Well, no. Okay, well, you got to break it down and, you don't have and they say, okay. And they would even just go someplace else and set up and shoot. That was it. And,
well, I experienced this firsthand, because when I was in college, me and my friends, we would make some films together. And one time we were in this park in Arlington Heights neighborhood in northwest Chicago suburbs, and we were in the park there, and we're shooting this scene, and this is the first time we had filmed anything like in a really public place, because other stuff we had filmed in public, it had been mostly like empty parks or that kind of thing, right? So but this time, and this was a nighttime shoot, I think. It was at night, so there were lots of people around, and a cop came up to us, and he's like, what are you guys doing here? I'm like, we're just shooting a movie. They're like, do you have a permit for that? I'm like, you need a permit? What the hell?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. I'm like, look, we're only going to be a few minutes, and then we're almost done. It's for a student film project. Do you mind? He's like, all right, fine, just hurry it up.
Yeah. Usually, if you don't give the cop any shit or anything like that, and you yes sir, no sir, they're like, because a few years back, there was a lot of that going on here in Brooklyn, where people, were filming their own movies on the street or in the park and stuff like that. You don't see it so much now, but like a few years back, there was a lot of that going on. And usually, like I said, the cops, they would say, okay, well, wrap it up and go. And the people say thank you very much, and they would, leave. So I mean, as I said, it was going on a few years back when we had this explosion of people realizing that, hey, I can film a movie on my iPhone and, edit it on my laptop and put it up on YouTube, which is, what a lot of people did. It was a big thing, yeah.
So this movie was also filmed partly in a working whorehouse, and Smalley actually ran out of money before he finished the movie, and so I think that accounts for some stuff that doesn't quite seem to connect in this film when you're watching it. And he had to sell the film to the owner of a film processing lab to settle his unpaid debts. And when it was released, it wasn't released until like 2 years later. And the working title of it was Super Black. But then when it was released under the name Abar, the First Black Superman. And then later it came out on VHS and it was titled In Your Face. And it had, original release was limited to what was known as the Chitlin Circuit of Southern Drive-In Theaters.
Oh, yeah, the good old Chitlin Circuit. Yeah, now, because when I saw it on YouTube, and I believe that when I saw it on Turner Classic Movies, it's just Abar now. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. They dropped the First Black Superman tag, which I think is a wise choice because saying the First Black Superman, that's kind of a misleading, addition to the title.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, because he's really not a Superman in the sense that we would think he's a super. And matter of fact, something, to be honest, this movie reminded me more of a Stephen King story than a superhero movie.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, and also, and that's only in the last 30 minutes or so of the movie. Like leading up to that.
Not even that. Like I would say last 15. Really. Yeah,
really. Yeah, you're right. But like up until that, like it's kind of weird to call this a superhero movie because that last part, that last 15 minutes, that's the only part of it that's a superhero movie.
And then he's doing stuff that I associate more with like magic than any kind of real superpowers because he runs up on a group of teenagers that are hanging out and they're on the street corner and everything like that. And then he looks at them and he gives them that freaky look with his eyes and everything like that. And then the next scene, they're walking out of college with college degrees in their hand.
Yeah.
They didn't go to school. Apparently he just magicked them into being upright, respectable college students.
His powers they're so undefined. Like he can just warp reality at a whim, and like that one the black priest, he leaves the church and he gets into his car, and the next thing you know, it turns into a horse and buggy. Which I'm just like, what? I don't get why you did that at all.
Well, okay, he gets into a Cadillac.
Okay.
And back in the 70s, when I was growing up, pastors were kind of vilified for the fact that the churches that they preached in were falling apart.
Oh, okay.
Like you would have pastors and. Okay, as I'm saying this, I know some of y'all folks out there, y'all nodding your heads because you know exactly what I'm talking about. You would have a church that would have a building fund for 20 years, supposedly to rebuild, the church. The church would never get rebuilt, but every year the pastor would have a new car and his wife would have a new car and she'd have furs and diamonds and stuff like that. So I understand why that scene was in there because he's getting in this Cadillac and Abar changes it into a horse and buggy, which he considers to be more suitable for him to be driving instead of taking money from, the parishioners who really can't afford cars of their own, but they make sure that he's in a car, so.
Okay, that makes more sense then.
It's like in that scene. Remember, if you remember, there's a scene in the movie Angel Heart where there's a preacher in Harlem and he's telling his congregation that the other preacher down the street, he has a Cadillac. He said, "But if you really love me, you should put me in a Rolls Royce."
Oh, right.
Yeah.
There's also that scene in A Time to Kill when the NAACP, they come to the black preacher and they tell him, well, if you tell your congregation to, chip in their money, we'd be willing to give you an administrative fee.
Yeah. And there was a lot of that stuff that was going on back during the 70s, so so that's why that scene is in there,
Yeah, okay. But yeah, his powers are just so ill-defined, and it's just like he can basically do anything, he can warp reality at a whim. And then when he talks to Kincaid at the end, right? The way he's not talking like Abar anymore. It's almost like, okay, like when we were talking about Meteor Man, you talked about how that your theory was that there was an actual entity living inside of him. Yeah. I get that kind of feeling from Abar's speech at the end, the way he's talking.
Yeah, and also it's really funny about I'm glad you mentioned that, because I watched this movie and they're speaking in English, right? Mm-hmm. But it's like everybody in this movie is dubbed.
Yeah.
It's
and I think that just has to do with the sound quality. Like, I'm imagining like they didn't, because most movies they go back and they re-record the audio in a studio. So, but they didn't really have. Obviously, they probably didn't do that. So all all the sound is filmed on location while they're shooting the film. Right. So yeah, I'm guessing. Yeah, they didn't have a chance to really like go back and plus like the mics they had were probably not the best quality to begin with. So I think that is why that kind of has that weird effect on it.
Yeah, because like I said, it's really weird. I watched that so weird. Yeah, they're speaking English, and that's obviously their voices. That's their actual voices, but they sound like they're dubbed.
Yeah,
it's really weird, but it adds to the weird charm of this movie, which I should say, I'm watching this movie, and you guys will hear me say a lot of times, yeah, it's a bad movie, it's a terrible movie, it's an awful movie, but watching it, I can see the sincerity of the actors in the movie. It's not like, say for instance, let me see, what movie can I use as an example? Okay, you take the Troma movies, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I can't stand the Troma movies. I hate the Troma movies. You know why? Because they're bad movies made by people who set out to intentionally make bad movies, and then it's like they're making fun of you for watching something that is bad.
Right.
If you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Okay, this movie, Abar, I don't get that impression. These people have made a movie about something, and the movie does have a lot to go into. They go into racial integration, classism. They go into political corruption, which takes up most of the movie, actually.
Well, one of the interesting things I thought is that just like the different perspectives they have of the black community, because there are lots of different black perspectives in this, and that kind of nuance, like, because even now, like, you turn on MSNBC and everyone's talking like we were in the midst of a primary election, and everyone's saying, well, Southern black voters voted for Biden. That means all black voters will vote for Biden because all black voters are a monolith.
Yeah. Well, exactly.
But this movie takes the time to show those different perspectives, and I thought that was a really interesting take on it.
Well, here's the thing. I actually would love to, and see, I shouldn't say this because every time I say shit like this, I get into trouble. I would actually like to take a crack at writing a novelization of this, because you know why? The most interesting thing in the movie to me was the relationship between Abar and Dr. Kincaid.
Yeah, they've got a really interesting dynamic. And you know what? Despite how low budget this is and how just low quality is, and also when there's a lot of bad acting in this movie, but J. Walter Smith, who plays Dr. Kincaid and who also came up with the scenario behind the story, and Tobar Mayo, who plays Abar and he was an extra in a bunch of other movies, like they both, like you said, they both have a lot of sincerity in their performances, and you can tell that they are really trying to treat this seriously.
Yeah, exactly, which I respect and I appreciate. And they're two black men who have two completely different points of view and two ways of looking at how a black man should live in the world and the role of black people in society. But yet they find a common ground and they become friends in the course of this movie, which is really... As far as I'm concerned, you could have left off the whole superpowered angle and had that relationship be the whole core of the movie.
Yeah.
Because it really works for me, I mean, by the end of the movie, hokey as the ending was, I was convinced that these guys were friends.
Yeah, same here. Like that is one thing that they really do, is they really sell you on that relationship between them. That's one of the... There aren't a lot of strengths in this movie, but that is one of them.
Oh, definitely. Do you want to give the folks the obligatory plot synopsis?
Okay, yeah. So for anyone who has not seen this movie, which is probably a large number of people.
There's probably a lot of you.
So the movie, it takes place in the 70s, and you've got this black scientist who is named Dr. Kincaid, and him and his family, they've moved into this suburban neighborhood, this predominantly white neighborhood in California, and right from the start, you know, they get out of their car, which also I noticed this. The car that the family drives up in, it's the same car that the city officials arrive in later.
Yeah.
So it's like this town only has one car that everybody uses.
Obviously, a low budget production.
Yeah. So they get out of the car, and these two white women are the neighbors, and one of those white women, we'll get into her later, because they pull a ridiculous plot twist on the end with her.
Oh, but she's hilarious, though. She says, because the Kincaids get out, and she said to her friend, that obviously must be the maid and
the butler and their children, yeah.
The butler and the chauffeur or whatever.
And then she goes to introduce them. She's like, I wonder where the white family's at. And then she goes up to them, and she
where
says,
white people at?
She's like, wow, the Kincaid family is so lucky to have you nice black people as their servants.
Oh, my God. And Mrs. Kincaid has got this shitty grin on her face, and she's watching this white woman make a complete ass out of herself. And she said, and she lets her go on and on and on and on. Oh, well, we want to invite the Kincaids, and we want to introduce them. We want to take them to our country club, and we want to do... Meantime, her friend is sensing that there's something wrong with this scenario, because she's tugging on her arm and saying, yo.
And then when she says, Mrs. Kincaid goes and introduces, no, I'm Mrs. Kincaid, these are my children, and that's what, like, the white woman freaks out on her. She's like, no, you're not.
She goes batshit insane. She says, stop lying, you're not the Kincaids, the Kincaids are white. Like the husband's a doctor. She said, "But yeah, my husband is a doctor. He works at the hospital. He's got a government grant. And this chick just absolutely loses it." My God!
And then they protest to city council, and the city council is having a meeting about it, and
they have one side. The funniest side is go back to Africa, Dr. Kincaid.
And she calls the son a pickaninny and all sorts of shit. It's just ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, when he comes to get his freebie. He comes to get his frisbee that lands on the lawn accidentally. She said, "Get on my lawn, you little pickaninny," which I said, oh my God. See, only 1970 movies could get away with doing something like that. Oh man.
But it's like
she's hilarious.
In all the wrong ways. But as I'm watching this movie, I'm just like, oh my God, this is it's such a sharp contrast from how serious it treats other issues and how it the dynamic it portrays between Kincaid and Abar, and then you've just got this almost cartoonish level of over the top racism.
Well, yeah, she's like something out of Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
The neighbor, in her, because she's so racist.
like the old lady who comes into this and says, "Up yours."
Yeah, right. Okay, exactly. This is her descendant.
Yeah.
Right. The scene where he walks up to her, Cleavon Little, and he says, "Oh, it's a beautiful morning, isn't it, man?" She's up yours, nigger.
Yeah.
This is her great granddaughter in Abar.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man. And in the meantime, while the protesting is going on with the neighborhood people trying to get Dr. Kincaid and his family to leave, Abar and his group of black militants, they hear about it on the radio and they run to the rescue.
Yeah. And they show up and they kind of like scare the white people away, basically.
Oh yeah. Oh, they were like, oh my God, more black people. Run. They do. They say, oh my God, there's more black people. Run. See, I told you. You let a couple of them in the neighborhood, and they bring more.
Yeah,
and they roar up their motorcycles and everything with their chains and and they plant the Black Liberation flag.
Yeah, I love that part.
Like they're cleaning this ground for black power.
But what I love is they only have it there for that scene, and then as they leave, they take it with them.
Yeah, they take it with them. They said, well, you know what? We don't want the white people taking down our flag.
It's like, look, man, we can only afford one flag for this movie, so we got to take it with us.
Yeah. Oh my God. But anyway, so Abar goes to the house and he introduces himself to Dr. Kincaid, who says to him, well, you know, I appreciate you hanging around and helping us out and blah, blah, blah. Could you hang around and do this? And Abar says to him, I got a better suggestion. Why don't you move back to the ghetto with the rest of the black people? Right. And Dr. Kincaid said, well, I can't do that. You know, I just got here, you know. So Abar agrees, okay, well, you know what? I'll hang around and I help you and your family out. And that's how they become friends, you know, because he hangs out with their kids, you know.
Yeah, basically Kincaid hires him as kind of a bodyguard, more or less.
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
And so yeah, there's a lot of great moments with with Abar and the kids, like when he's reading them telling them the bedtime story of Deadeye Dick. Deadwood Dick, yes, sorry. The black cowboy who fought for, you know, preserving himself. And they reenact, you know, kind of the story with the Kincaid family playing the parts of the settlers and Abar playing the part of Deadwood Dick.
Right. The son has a dream.
Right.
He falls asleep and he has a dream, and he dreams this whole scenario where they're out in the West and these white men come to run them off their land, and the father's trying to defend them, but he's not very good at it, which says a lot about how the son subconsciously thinks about his father. And yeah, as you said, Abar, as Deadwood Dick, he comes and he guns down all the white men, and you know, and he leaves, and you know, and the kid wakes up and he's excited. He tells his father this story and everything like that. And Dr. Kincaid don't look too happy to be in the role of ineffectual homesteader. But hey, what are you gonna do?
And then the racism gets out of control, and they try to set a bomb at the house, which Abar finds their intruders. They get rid of the bomb, but then there's another altercation, and Kincaid's son ends up getting shot.
No, he gets run over by a car.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, run over by a car. The shooting stuff comes with. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because the guy is setting the bomb.
Right.
And Kincaid Jr., I forget his first name. I think it's Tommy or something like that. We'll call him Tommy. And
it is actually Tommy, yeah.
Okay, and he finds the guy trying to set the bomb, and he's playing Deadwood Dick, and he's got that little toy 6-shooter, and he pulls it out, and he's banging away at him, and the white guy gets up and runs, and he jumps in his car, and the guy's legitimately trying to get away. I'm going to give him that. He's trying to get away, but Tommy jumps in front of the car, still with the toy gun shooting. And the guy can't, get out because the kid did jump right in front of the car.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be fair to him. The guy was just trying to get away, and he runs over the kid, and the kid is dead.
Yeah, and then so throughout the movie up until this point, Kincaid and his wife have been having this argument over whether they should stay or go. With his wife, she says, let's just leave. Let's get out of this neighborhood. Let them have the neighborhood. Screw it. Our family's more important. While Kincaid, he refuses to give in. And that comes to a head after the son dies, because at that point she's just like, that's it. If you're not going to, I'm taking our daughter and I'm leaving because I'm not going to stay here anymore.
Which, mind you, in the context of this low budget, cheesy, exploitation movie, this is a conversation that many black married couples honestly had to have.
Oh, absolutely.
Even during that period, especially in that period of our history when we were supposed to be overcoming and getting ahead, and we were still getting burned out of our houses, and we still had people that were making off like like in this movie, they go to Kincaid and they say, well, you know what, you paid $200,000 for that. We're going to give you $300,000. That's how bad we want you out.
Now, some people might think that's ridiculous and that's over the top, but that's actually realistic. It reminded me a lot of Raisin in the Sun.
Raisin in the Sun, right? Yeah,
when the neighborhood association or whatever of this home they've just bought, they come and they say, we're willing to offer you what you paid for the house and then some, so you don't move in.
Yeah, I think they were going to pay them like another $10,000 over that,
right?
If they just wouldn't move in. And people look at that kind of stuff now, and they say, "Oh, well, that's ridiculous." No, that shit actually happened. It went on.
Yeah.
And again, in talking about this movie, I go back and I advise people to watch it. I recommend it not for the superhero stuff that happens in the last 15 minutes, which really doesn't have anything to do with me, which is the meat and potatoes of this movie, which is the relationship between these two men who are both black men, but they come from totally different worlds, and the struggles of his family to, have this house in the neighborhood where people don't want them.
Yeah.
To me, that's what the real story of this movie is.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, another thing that I thought was a neat little touch is how they touched on political corruption, and in this case it was not only white politicians but also black politicians who were just like, I don't give a damn about the ghetto, we live nicely over here.
Oh yeah, there's what, I think he's an alderman or something like that. He flat out says that at one part of the movie. He says, I don't care about them people in the ghetto. He said, listen, I'm living good, and he said, that's all I care about. Which to me, I said, something, this movie gets props for me for stating that so flatly. And we see this same black guy, this alderman or whatever he is, but he's corrupt, and he goes to Kincaid and he tries to talk him into moving, and he even goes to Abar and he tries to tell him, well, you need to tell your friend that he should move out there, and and if you don't, well, they're going to cut all these programs and you won't be able to do these. You won't be able to do this for the kids. You won't be able to do this for the senior citizens. I said, wow, this cat is really sleazy.
Yeah. And that's, it's fitting that we were watching this after Mike Bloomberg dropped out of the race, because you saw a lot of him trying to do that, like trying to buy off black politicians to endorse him to cover up the fact that, he's a racist piece of shit.
And you know something? If anything depresses me about watching movies like this, in that this is the same bullshit that goes on in this movie, Abar, and a lot of other black movies that were made during the same period. The same shit that happened then, we're still dealing with it now.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing. I was thinking, like, you know what? If you took this screenplay and you filmed it today and you made it in the modern day setting, you would not have to change a word.
No, really. Nah. There's a lot you wouldn't have to change. You wouldn't have to change any of the dialogue between Abar and the doctor, between the doctor and his wife, even the doctor and his brother, because even the doctor's brother tries to get him to move out.
Yeah.
Because he's like some kind of successful businessman. They never say exactly what he is, but he says to his brother, he says, listen, they told me if I didn't talk to you and get you to move, they'd see to it that I don't get no more contracts.
Right.
And I said, yeah, for an exploitation movie, this takes some nice surprising turns into some serious realms of thought into, what was going on then. And as we've said, so sadly, it's still going on now.
Well, I mean, and this has influence on modern day depictions, because, the main character, Abar, right?
Yeah.
What's the name of the main character? What's the last name of the main character in the Watchmen TV show?
Oh,
Abar. Yeah.
Abar, yeah. And he becomes a black Superman.
He becomes a black Superman. Exactly. Yeah. So these connections there's that whole connection in there, and I didn't realize it until I watched this. And I'd heard about this movie, but it wasn't until after I watched it that I really made the connection. I'm like, oh, now I see what they were doing there.
Yeah, and also Dr. Manhattan, his powers are kind of magical also, because he can warp reality to suit himself. He just thinks of something and it happens.
Right, and he's also got that kind of like, it's so weird because this is before even the Watchmen comic book came out, but Dr. Manhattan's mannerisms and the way he talks and everything, it's very similar to how Abar acts after he gets his powers.
You know, now that you mention it, because then he's got that kind of detached attitude almost. You know, he even dresses different. For the first time, we see him wearing a suit.
Yeah, exactly.
And most notably, it's a blue suit.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Yeah, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, it's a blue suit. And the guy that plays Abar anyway, Tobar Mayo, he's kind of freaky looking anyway because this cat has absolutely no hair.
Yeah, I realized that too. Like, I'm watching, I didn't notice it until they did those close-ups on his eyes, and I'm like, holy crap, the guy's got no eyebrows.
He doesn't even have eyebrows, yeah. So all through the movie, he has this vaguely alien kind of look because, I mean, it's not even that he's bald. It looks like he never had any follicles, period, on his head.
I wonder if he's got, because there's that medical condition where people can't grow hair. I wonder if that's what he's got.
Yeah, because like I said, it doesn't even look like he even shaved for the role. It looks like he never had any hair.
Right.
But yeah, go back and watch the movie. He's wearing a blue suit. He's wearing this bright blue suit. Mm-hmm. And now that you know, putting the whole Dr. Manhattan thing together, I'm starting to wonder if, oh wow, that's wow.
Well, you know, I'm 100% positive that Alan Moore has never seen this movie, has never even heard of this movie, so I don't think he had any sort of influence on Alan Moore when he was creating Dr. Manhattan. But I think it did have a big influence on Damon Lindelof when he was putting together the Watchmen TV show.
Right, exactly. See, that's what I'm thinking, too. Yeah. I'm thinking, Lindelof, he's probably seen it. Yeah, Alan Moore, there's no reason why I would think that he said, but Lindelof, given what you're saying to me now, and I'm thinking more of it, and it didn't hit me because when he was wearing this, I said, why is he wearing that bright, he's wearing this bright blue suit, like, you know, it's almost neon. I said, oh, wait a minute, Dr. Manhattan's blue.
And I think Lindelof, I think what happened is Lindelof looked at all these different connections, right? He saw, he looked at all these different things. He probably researched the history of black superheroes, and he found this movie, right? Which pretty much the only way you're going to stumble upon this movie is if you're looking for it.
Yeah, this isn't exactly a movie that's going to pop up as soon as you go on, Amazon Prime. You know how it pops up movies that recommend for you. Yeah, this is a movie that you have. The only way you're going to find it is if you're looking for it.
Right. So he probably found this movie. He watched it, and then he took the name Abar from that. The whole thing about. And he probably noticed, like, wow, this guy is really similar to Dr. Manhattan. I'm going to use that. And just like he connected in the whole thing with Bass Reeves and Hooded Justice and linked that. So I think he's just kind of working all these things together. And it's amazing because even though it wasn't created to be that way, it all fits together really well.
Yeah, because like you said, we even get the connection between Abar and Western Hero did with Dick.
Exactly. That stood out to me, too.
Wow. That is... You know what? I just learned something. I co-host this thing, and I learned more than... Wow. Yeah, that's really... No, but, all kidding aside, that really is something to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that just says something about how Lindelof really knows his shit when he puts the effort in, right? Problem is, there have been a lot of times where he hasn't really put the effort in, but thankfully on Watchmen he did, and he proved that he can actually do this stuff really well.
Yeah. When he puts it, because didn't he do, what was the other show he did?
Lost.
The Heroes, right?
Oh, I don't know if he did Heroes, but he did Lost, I believe.
Lost. Okay, yeah, Lost. And he dropped the ball with Lost.
Right.
He dropped the ball. But you know what? Maybe that was, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt with like studio interference and all this other kind of stuff. And of course, once you're dealing with other creative people, other things get thrown into the mix. But that season of Watchmen was his baby all the way through. And maybe that's what he should just stick to, just doing, these limited kind of series where, he's got full creative control from start to finish. And it's not that long. He can wrap up a whole story in like, one season, like a few episodes.
Right. Okay, so back to this movie. I've seen this. I saw this movie about a week ago, so my memory is a little bit fuzzy on some of the plot details. But after Kincaid's son dies, Abar gets into an altercation with the police, I believe.
Yeah.
There's and the police, and this is after. So Kincaid has told Abar about his formula.
Right. They have like a discussion in his basement laboratory, and he explains to him, his whole elixir that he's been working on and everything like that. And of course, Abar is saying to him, you can't keep this to yourself. The typical speech that everybody gives a mad scientist. Right. Starting with Dr. Frankenstein, when he's just come up with something that's going to change the world. You can't keep this to yourself. It's too big. Yeah. And Kincaid is telling him, well. And of course, Kincaid gives him the usual speech mad scientists do. Well, man is not ready for this yet. Abar said, what'd you create it for? Well, just see if I could. We go back to Jurassic Park. You were so busy trying to figure out if you could do it, you never stopped to ask yourself, should you do it?
Exactly. Yeah. That old meme. Science can teach you how to recreate a dinosaur. The humanities teaches you why that might not be the best idea.
Well, okay, here you go. So Abar takes this homegrown funky cold Medina.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but before we get to that, like when he's demonstrating the serum to Abar on the rabbit. And I just love this because it shows how low budget it is. And he takes the gun, right? And they cut to a close-up of a gun firing. That's obviously a completely different gun being fired in a completely different location.
Well, they only had the one rabbit.
And they only had that one shot of the gun because they just keep reusing it over and over again.
Because they only had one bullet. so they had to keep using that same shot over and over again. They said, hey, bullets cost money.
Yeah. And then, so then he takes because what happens is this other guy gets shot. Now, at first, when I was watching this, I thought the guy who got shot was actually Kincaid.
So, you know what? So did I.
Okay, so I don't feel so stupid now.
You're right. I had to rewind it back because I could have sworn one of the cops said, you shot the doctor.
Yeah, I thought I heard that too. And then it turns out
he was climbing over. Right, because the guy's trying to climb over the fence, and the cop shoots him in the back, mind you. Bam. Yeah. The guy said, what did you do? You just shot the doctor. And he said, hey, he had a gun. Mm-hmm. And then they go up on him, and of course he doesn't have a gun. And the cop says, what are we going to do? And the cop who shot this poor guy, who to this day I still don't know who this guy was. Yeah, he was just some push love that happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Which also again is another parallel to things that happen today to black men who all the time are getting shot because they're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Absolutely.
And the cop who shot him goes to his car, gets a throwaway gun, and puts it in the dead guy's hand.
Yeah.
And he puts it there, and everybody shows up. He said, hey, guy had a gun. What do you want me to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then he takes so then Abar goes back and he takes the serum. And This is when he gets his superpowers. And this is when it just gets kind of... Because, this whole... It seems like they're leading on a path of there's going to be some sort of confrontation between Kincaid and Abar that never really quite happens. Like, they have that conversation, but I didn't really get the sense that much was resolved in that conversation. And I think this might have something to do with the fact that they ran out of money before they finished it.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Actually, I'm kind of glad that we didn't get that kind of traditional scene where they confront each other.
Yeah.
Because to me, that would have spoiled everything that's happened up to that point with their relationship. Because, like I said, I enjoy the relationship that goes between these two characters so much. It would have left a bad taste in my mouth if, say, like Kincaid confronted, and especially it wouldn't have said much to me about the intelligence of Kincaid, because he knows exactly now what Abar has become. So it wouldn't make no sense for him to try to confront him.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't make any sense. And if anything, I have to admit, Kincaid has not shown himself to be a stupid man in this movie. The only mistake that he made is not taking his or at least sending his family away. If he could, you know what? If he felt he had to make a last stand in that house, he should have sent his family away.
Yeah, I agree.
Go live with my brother, me and Abar. We'll stay here and, we'll do the Alamo thing, but right. You guys don't have to be here. That's the only mistake he makes in this movie. Otherwise, he presents himself as being a very calm, rational, thinking man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I kind of admired, Now, instead, what Abar does, he goes back and, as we said earlier, he does all of these different things, like there's a mugger that snatches a purse from a woman. He makes the mugger take the purse back.
And, I was watching that scene because it's in such a weird way, because Abar, you see like the close-ups on Abar's eyes, and you see the guy, it looks like he's running at superhuman speed then.
Yeah.
And then he drops the purse, and then he's like picking it back up, and he's like running backwards, and then he brings the purse back to the woman, and then he just collapses.
There's the winos. There's like 4 or 5 winos that are fighting over a bottle of wine, and Abar, he gives them that look, and all of a sudden they're all drinking milk.
Yeah. He goes to the black politician that we talked about earlier, and they're eating dinner, and this is when he says, like, I don't care about the ghetto or anything like that, and then he turns it into he turns their spaghetti or whatever into worms.
Yeah, and then for the finale, he goes back to the white neighborhood where Dr. Kincaid lives at, and the white people that have been tormenting them, and basically throws the 7 plagues of Egypt at
Oh yeah, he goes full on Wrath of God in this. Like he unleashes rats in one house, he unleashes locusts in another. Adds snakes into them and everything. But and it's all happening to every house in that neighborhood except that really over-the-top white woman at the beginning.
Right.
And now this is where it throws in a curveball that really comes out of nowhere and feels so ridiculous. When the woman, she goes up to the Kincaid family as they come back to the neighborhood, and she says, "I'm so sorry about your son. I'm so sorry about what I said to you, what I did." And you think, okay, well, it's a little bit of a forced reconciliation, but at least she's, they're trying to show that it's possible to change. But then she takes it into she's like, the reason I did all that is because I'm black and I've been passing as white.
Yeah. That's why she threw in. That's why she threw in. She said she found out she has. I think what she was trying to say, because she said she had sickle cell.
Yeah, and
sickle cell anemia, and that's when she found out that she was black.
Right.
Yeah. I get what you mean. You know what? I get what you mean, but to me, that kind of put her whole over-the-top reaction in some kind of context now.
Yeah.
I said, oh, okay, well, she lived her whole life as white. Now she just found out she's black. That's why she freaked out. That's why she was freaking out like that, all Looney Tunes and everything like that. I get what you're saying, though. Mm-hmm. I understand, because, like you said, it's like a ham-handed kind of reconciliation.
Yeah. And especially because there is no way that actress is in any way black.
No.
Like I can understand it. Like there are black people who are light skinned enough and they can pass, right? Or mixed race or something like that. But she is definitely not one of them.
Well, okay, but wait a minute.
Okay.
Let's look at a very famous actress who at the end of her career, after she had finished and everything like that, and she retired, and she admitted that she was black.
Oh, who's this?
Carol Channing.
Really? I didn't know that.
You look it up. Carol Channing, she, at the end of her career, she admitted, she said, she was African American.
Well, I mean, she does have, but she, like, if you look closely, she does have, like, she's very light-skinned, but she does have, features, right? Her features, you can kind of tell a little bit if you know that going in.
Well, let me tell you something. When I was a kid, and I would be watching like Ed Sullivan or Sonny and Cher or something, because it was all variety shows, back then. And Carol Channing was in all of them. And I distinctly remember my mother and father speculating as to who in her family was black. And I looked at her and I said, well, I saw this blonde white woman on there the other day, and I said, but wait a minute, but Dad, Mom, she's white. Nah, she ain't white. She's black. There's somebody black in the family. And I never could figure out how they knew. And all my father would tell me, he said, well, when you get older and you get some more experience up under your belt, you'll be able to tell. Mm-hmm. And he was right. Like, now I can look at somebody and I can tell, yeah, okay, well, I can see where he was. Look at, what's his name? Tom Jones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tom Jones did the DNA thing and found out that he had black people. Matter of fact, if you look at Tom Jones now, he looks like a black man.
Yeah, his modern appearances, he's looks much more like one.
Yeah. So I see what you're saying, that there's no way that this woman could,
I mean, if you were gonna, I understand budget constraints and everything, but
yeah,
couldn't you at least try and find someone who looks a little bit more the part?
Yeah, if you were gonna go that route, couldn't you got somebody with at least frizzy hair or something like that, so we could look at them and say, yeah, okay, I can see it.
Yeah. Otherwise, this feels like what was that white woman a few years ago? But Rachel Dolezal.
Oh yeah.
It feels like that kind of situation.
Yeah, but listen, I give Rachel credit. She committed to that shit.
Oh, yeah.
People are but wait a minute. There wasn't nothing in it for her to pretend she was black all these years. It wasn't like she was making a fortune here. Mm-hmm. She was, listen, homegirl was committed to the role. That's all I got to say. They could have got somebody a little bit, because like you said, it's like they're trying to wrap up a whole lot of things in that last 15 minutes of that movie, and this is just another one of them.
And I think that has something to do with that might have something to do with the fact that they ran out of money during production. Like maybe they had planned to shoot some extra scenes that had kind of set this up a little bit better. Plus, when he mentioned the doctor told me that you had sickle cell anemia, that stuck out to me, and I think that's who that other guy was, the guy that the cop shot.
Oh, okay.
I think. I'm not positive, but
I'm not positive either. Because like I said, as we were saying earlier, I'm with you. I thought it was Dr. Kincaid that got shot.
Yeah, and it made a narrative sense for me, because I thought, oh, well, this is why Abar's going to take the serum now and he's going to go get revenge.
Right, because the street gang, they got back to the biker gang that Dr. Kincaid was looking for Abar, and he has a gun. Mm-hmm. Because they all jump on their motorcycles and they're running around the ghetto. They're trying to find Dr. Kincaid. So when this guy got shot and the cop said, oh, you shot the doctor. I said, oh, man, they killed Dr. Kincaid. That's messed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there's the confrontation between the cops and the biker gang. And, and Abar's just sitting there. And, he's just like, and the one white cop, he's like, screw this, man. I'm going home to my wife. Make love, not war.
Yeah, because Abar puts the whammy on him.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, the biker gang is getting ready to go down. They got their guns out and they say, man, we going down. We taking these pigs with us. And Abar, like you say, he's just sitting there. And they yell at Abar, get down, get down, get down. And apparently he puts the Jedi mind trick on these cops because they all start fighting each other.
Yeah. Though I did like that one guy who just said, "I'm going home to make love to my wife." Reminded me of that scene. Reminded me of that scene at the end of Clue.
Yeah, he just throws his gun down and says, "Man, screw this shit." He said, what are you doing? Take that gun. Nah, man, I'm going home and make love to my wife.
And that was the same cop who also objected to planting the gun on the guy that the other cop shot.
Oh man. And then one guy throws a racial slur at one of the black cops or something like that. He calls him a spear chucker or something like that. They start fighting. And the biker gang is just saying, well, what's going on? Because look, now cops, it's like 6 cops. They're all fighting each other now. They're in the dirt wrestling around. Yeah. And Abar's gone. Of course, they turn around and look for Abar. And he's, boom. He done magicked himself away.
And then at the end, it's just the Kincaid family with Abar just kind of like walking down the street holding hands, and that's just kind of how the movie ends. So it's like I wonder if they didn't run out of movie, if they would have had anything else tacked onto the end there or something to hint at what Abar would be doing next, because we don't really get the sense of where's he going to go from here. Like, is he just going to keep this stuff limited to this neighborhood? Is he going to go take it nationwide, worldwide? What? Like, that's kind of the question that's left hanging in the air.
Yeah, Abar suffered from the same malady that a lot of movies of the 70s suffer from, in that there's really no resolution to the plot. It just the movie just like ends.
Yeah.
We really don't get a feel. Like you said, we really don't get a feeling of what he's going to do with these abilities now, because the Kincaid family, along with the white woman, mind you, who I guess they trying to say that, now she's going to join the family to make up for the son that was killed or something like that. But she's walking with them. Yeah. And they're walking down the street. And then, Abar stops and they stop, and he turns around and he waves and he just walks off down the street by himself. And that's our last shot we see of him. He turns the corner and he walks down the street by himself. And then it's a freeze frame and it's the end credits. And you were left with this sense. Well, wait a minute. Well, what happened next?
Yeah.
What happens now? What's he going to do? Is he going to go to Las Vegas and start a magic act? Is he going to walk? Is he going to walk the land like Cain and and have adventures? What's he going to do?
Yeah.
And
And I don't know. I'm not really sure where to go next on this one. Like, it's such a weird movie, because it is oftentimes very complex and there are some very big ideas it's playing with, but then there are other times when it's like completely ridiculous and over the top.
See, Abar is the perfect example of something that I've always said for years. If I ran a studio and if I had billions of dollars and writers and stuff like that, I would not remake successful movies. I wouldn't. I would take a movie like this, like Abar, and I would remake this.
Yeah.
Because there are elements in here, like you said, there's some complex elements that are in this movie that if they had a bigger budget, probably more time to rehearse, some better actors and some things, although I would not exchange that white woman for anything. but if they had some other actors, this would have been a much better movie.
Yeah.
And again, I have to say, I consider it a bad movie in terms of what it is, as far as, I don't know. You know what? I don't even want to call it bad, because as I said earlier, there's a sincerity in this movie. These people, weren't winking at the camera and they weren't trying to, do a spoof or anything like that. I distinctly get the feeling that they made a movie they actually wanted to make and were proud to make it, and they wanted to say something with this movie.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that was the intention going into it, is that this was, like, it ended up on the blaxploitation circuit and everything like that, but this was intended kind of as a response to blaxploitation movies, to say, like, look, we can make more serious films than what we've been doing. Yeah, exactly. And it does have its moments of goofiness, I'm not going to lie, but it does have, like, as we were saying earlier, I
the core of the movie to me is the relationship between Abar and Dr. Kincaid, and the relationship Dr. Kincaid has, because he sits down, he has serious conversations. There's one where he cusses out the alderman, but he does it in a very nice, polite way that I loved. Well, and his wife even says to him, you know something, you're starting to act a little bit like Abar now. You're starting to get, I said, whoa. I said, that's kind of cool how the two men, they have certain qualities that start rubbing off on each other.
Yeah, and in fact, that's something that that just struck me now, because if you took some of the dialogue between Kincaid and Abar and you had it read by Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, some of that dialogue could easily fit for Xavier and Magneto.
Ooh, something, you're right.
I mean, especially that line when she says, you're starting to act like Abar, you're starting to sound like Abar, right? Because that's something that happened to Xavier in the comics when Magneto died, right? And there was no longer that counterbalance. Xavier's perspective started shifting, and he started becoming a little bit more like Magneto.
Yeah. And that's and like I said, I can't go into that enough, and I can't recommend that enough, because they don't go the normal route that you would have in a movie of this sort, where these two guys would be enemies and everything like that. They actually kind of respect and like each other right from the start.
Yeah.
Like Abar says something to him at one time when Dr. Kincaid comes to a rally that Abar is having, and he's giving a speech, and then he starts ragging on Kincaid and saying, "Oh, here he comes, and and he done left us, and he's living in this big house. He's done moved on up and everything like that." And Kincaid is actually just standing there like kind of smiling, he's not offended or anything like that. And then he asked Abar to come take a ride with him, and Abar said, "Yeah, and they get in the car and they go. And they're talking like friends. And Kincaid kind of realizes that he had to say that, and it doesn't bother. It's really, I can't recommend this movie highly enough just for the relationship between these two very different black men who end up, having this friendship. They're working together, and there's no animosity for the life choice that the other one has made.
Yeah. There's also sorry, go ahead.
No, go. I haven't talked enough. Go ahead.
Well, there's also the emphasis they both place on how much respect they had for Martin Luther King, which I thought was also an interesting touch, because there's not really any mention of the Black Panthers or Malcolm X or anything like that, and it seems like Abar is more from that ideology.
Well, not really, because I remember there's a point where Kincaid is asking him, when Abar says, that's when they first meet, and he comes to his house and he says, okay, well, we're going to protect you, and we're going to make sure your family is safe from, the crackers. And, Kincaid says, well, how are you going to do that with violence and everything like that? And Abar says, don't worry about it. We have our ways. We know how to protect ourselves. So it's not like he advocates violence.
Well, no, but that was even that I'm talking, when I say Malcolm X, I'm talking like later Malcolm X, after he left the Nation of Islam. But also the Black Panthers were also very much about self-defense.
True. But what I'm saying is that we don't see the street gang use we don't really see them with guns until that final confrontation that they have with and even then they don't shoot the police.
Yeah.
Abar, like I said, he does the Jedi, mind trick on him and everything like that. But yeah, you're absolutely right, because they play snippets of speeches Martin Luther King made throughout the movie.
Yeah.
But you don't hear anything about Malcolm X or the Black Panther or any other black leaders of that period. It's just, Martin Luther King. Wow, yeah.
Now, I wonder if that was intentional, because, this was made in... It was released in 1977, but it was actually completed in 1975. And I wonder if it has to do with the time period, because really, when you think about it, it's only within like the past 20, 30 years that white people have started to look at Malcolm X and the Black Panthers and starting to say, well, wait, they weren't as bad as everybody made them out to be.
True.
So I wonder if, whereas, Martin Luther King, even yeah, he was considered a radical at the time, but there was a shift in perspective after he died that you didn't really see with Malcolm X or with the Black Panthers when Malcolm X died or when the Black Panthers died out. And I wonder if, because I don't know if they'd be, I don't know. I'm wondering if maybe they were worried about any potential backlash they would have had from that, if they would be seen as like glorifying that kind of stuff. But I'm not sure if that. But also seeing like all the issues they touch on here, I don't know. I'm kind of rambling now. It doesn't seem like they would. That would be a concern of theirs.
Right. Exactly. And I understand where you're going with that train of thought, and I'm going to jump on that train with you because with all of the other themes that they explore in this movie that were controversial at that time. Why would they, step back on mentioning the Panthers or Malcolm X?
Yeah. After
they took this step here and they have said, okay, well, we're going to talk about this and we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about the other. Why would they? Listen, that's an excellent point. It is, yeah. Something to think about. Well, you know something? I got to go back and watch this now because you done gave me a whole lot of other stuff now. Thinking it's serious. You gave me a whole lot of other stuff to think about this movie now. So now I got to watch it in a whole new context now.
Yeah.
Again.
See, I mean, this is it's also not at all what you'd expect from the title or the time period or just the cover art, because like you've seen the poster image of this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like a standard blaxploitation movie, right? Like it's got the Abar's on there with I just had the image here and I just lost it. Here we go. So yeah, it's got Abar standing there. He's dressed in kind of like this like African style design shirt. He's wearing these aviator sunglasses. Yeah, and there's like the fire in the background. There's a snake wrapped around. There's a guy holding a gun. There's a guy on a motorcycle. The tagline is "What it was, what it is, what it ought to be," and it looks. And plus, the title on VHS was in your face. So
no, that poster is nothing like the movie.
No, not at all.
Matter of fact, there's one scene where Abar wears a dashiki that resembles the one that's in the thing. But it's a nighttime scene where he's sitting on the couch. He's having a conversation with Kincaid and Kincaid's brother. And that's it. That's the only time we ever seen him wear the dashiki. Yeah. So
the movie seems like from the poster, it's a movie that you're gonna be disappointed that it's not what the poster looks like, but at the same time you're gonna be surprised at some of the other stuff it is.
Yeah. You know what? I definitely think that a lot of people, if they watch this movie, and I do recommend that you see it, mind you. Trust me, folks, I would not be going through all of this if I wouldn't be going through all of this just to wrap it up by saying, "No, don't watch this movie." No, I do recommend that you sit down and watch it. No, it is not high art.
No.
We are not talking about a $200 million MCU CGI blockbuster here. But there is a lot in this movie to like and appreciate if you take it for what it is and approach it in the time frame that it was made and accept it for that, Yeah.
And it's also kind of admirable because this, again, we talked about other movies that came out in the old days and, early superhero movies. This came out before Superman.
Yeah.
And, they took a serious approach to this kind of idea. And it gets a little cheesy at times, but in general, they keep it pretty serious.
Yeah, like I said, if I had the money and if I had a studio or if I had some influence, I would really like to see somebody take a serious crack at, remaking this movie. Because, again, as I was saying earlier, to me, it's kind of depressing that a lot of the themes in this movie are things that we're still dealing with. So you watch a movie like this and you say, well, damn, I don't care what they say on TV or what they're telling me on the internet, everything like that. As a society, how have we really progressed since then?
Right. Yeah. And it raises those questions, and it gives you some stuff to think about when you realize that, this movie was made like 40 years ago, and
yeah.
We're still dealing with this stuff. It's still there.
Yeah, we're still dealing with the same shit that they dealing with in this movie. And like I said, it'll make you think, well, really, how far along have we we have progressed in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at, the various things that have happened to so-called minorities in this country in the last 3 years, it really has to make you think, you know, how far have we really progressed?
Right. So it raises some interesting questions about that. And it's, you're going to roll your eyes at a lot of points in this movie. Like, I'm just going to prepare you for that. You are going to roll your eyes a lot, but there's also some other stuff. If you stick with it, I think that I'm not going to say it's a good movie. I'm going to say it's a movie that's worth your time. Yeah,
it is. Bingo. That's the best way to describe it. It's a movie. Listen, folks, it's on YouTube. It's for free. You're sitting around the house Saturday afternoon. You don't have nothing else better to do and watch that. Give it a try. Mm-hmm. I'm serious. Give it a try.
Yeah. All right. So is there anything else we should add about this movie? Anything else to touch on?
If we haven't done it in an hour and a half, then we have not done our jobs.
Yeah, I don't think there's much more places to really go with it. We talked. I think we kind of covered everything that there is really to cover in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, there is one thing I did want to talk about, though. I just remembered I wanted to mention one thing, and that is Tobar Mayo is. He actually does, like we talked before about how him and the guy who plays Kincaid, they're very sincere in their roles. But I think
J. Walter Smith.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, but Dr. Kincaid.
Yeah, but Mayo is, I think he's probably he gives the best performance in this because he does. When he changes, when he gets the powers, and he has that speech, he has that conversation with Kincaid at the end, it is like he's a completely different person. He does a really good job of portraying him and changing his portrayal and acting like he is a very different person. And like you said, when you combine it with the fact that he has no hair, and then his expressions and everything, it's very blank, and it is almost like he's become an alien.
And also, I like the fact that he projects a nice, quiet confidence. You can see why this guy is a leader. Because if you ever notice, when he's giving order, he never raises his voice.
No.
He says, he gives an order as if he expects to be obeyed. There's not any question you're not going to do what he said. Therefore, he doesn't have to yell or raise his voice at you.
Well, in general, he doesn't show a lot of anger. Like, at all. No. Like, he's very cool and collected throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, even in the scene where it's a bunch of white guys, they come to Kincaid's house, and they're singing, they're whistling the Battle Hymn of the Republic, of all things.
It's one of those examples of the over-the-top racism.
Yeah, exactly. Just go with it, And they put a coffin on Kincaid's lawn for some reason. Just go with it, folks. But anyway, Abar shows up and he gets into an altercation with them, and he beats their ass pretty much and throws them in a garbage truck that his men have brought up because they're going to clean up Kincaid's lawn because white people in the neighborhood have thrown all this garbage on his lawn. So they come to clean it. So he throws the guys in. Even while he's doing all this fighting, like I said, he doesn't seem like he loses his temper.
No. He looks like he's having fun doing it.
Yeah. And then he goes to Kincaid, hey, how you doing, man? What's happening? Yeah. And I said, wow, this cat is chill. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? And you look at him, and I know that people say, well, who would you compare him to? You know what? He's a good enough actor that he's got his own kind of vibe. Yeah. I can't even say that he's like Sidney Poitier or he's like, I don't know, Harry Belafonte or, he's got his own unique vibe, which I really appreciated, out of this, that I appreciated from this actor. And I think it enhanced
Yeah,
his portrayal of this character. Yeah,
it's too bad that he'd basically anything else he'd been in was basically as an extra, because he's got some talent there, and it would have been interesting to see like how he would have grown as an actor if he had been given some better roles.
Oh yeah. I mean, I definitely could have seen him becoming, going on to more dramatic roles, action movies and stuff like that. Because he's got the chops. Even in this movie with the limited time that we see him in a way, but those scenes that he's in, he owns those scenes.
Yeah, definitely.
He owns them. Yeah, he's a good actor. I like it. Matter of fact, you know what? Even though they are not what I would call polished actors, again, I have to go back to the sincerity of the performances. Everybody in this movie is sincere. They work with what they got.
Yeah.
And know what? I can't ask no more of anybody in any field than that. They work with what they have. And I mean, they sell their characters and they sell the story, which is basically, as an actor, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to sell your character and you're supposed to sell the story.
Right.
And that's what actors in this movie do.
Okay, so do we have anything else to add?
Only that you should, like I said, Saturday afternoon, you don't have anything else to do. Folks, it's on YouTube. You don't have to pay to see it.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty good print. That's on there too. It's pretty good. It's not, it's not HD quality, but it's not bad.
Right. So check it out. Give it a watch. Sit through the painful parts. There is stuff worth watching in this movie. And other than that, Derek, do you have anything you want to announce? Anything that you got coming out?
Let me see. What did I have? No, the only thing I had coming out was the 2 Dylan books that came out in December. I am going to start work on a new project. Airship 27, a few years ago, Charles Saunders wrote a book called Damballa, which is about a black pulp hero in 1930s Harlem. So a couple of weeks ago, well, not a couple of weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago, I get a letter from, Charles Saunders himself, who I am fortunate enough to have become friends with. I read his books when I was back in high school.
Oh, okay.
So I've worshipped this guy as a writer, forever. He created Imaro, which is like a Black Conan.
Right.
Yeah, type character.
He also did he do Mitimbu for Black Pulp?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually used that in a paper I wrote in grad school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, comparing Mitimbu and Tarzan of the Apes, and like showing different racial perspectives on the 2 different approaches to the jungle hero.
Well, what had happened was that Charles had been in touch with Ron Fortier, the captain of Airship 27, and he's working on something now. And while Ron wanted a sequel to Damballa, Charles, he felt he couldn't do it at this time since all of his energies was going into this other project that he's doing. So Ron and Charles asked me to write a sequel to Damballa. So that's what I'm going to be doing for the foreseeable future. I'm going to be, working on that. So you folks can look forward to that. Do I have anything else? I have a couple of things that I'm working on, but nothing. You know what? Because I don't like talking about stuff too much, and this is kind of weird. But if I talk too much about a project that I'm working on, it kind of releases the pressure, and then I feel like I don't have to write it.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so I know there's some writers that love going on and all, well, I'm working on this, and I'm working on that, and I'm doing that. And you know what? That's fine. If you can do that, that's okay. But to me, if I talk too much about it, then I don't feel like I have to write it.
Right.
So I just prefer to just keep what I'm working on to myself until it's finished, or at least close to, or at least until it's so close to completion that there's no way I can't not finish it.
Yeah.
Well, damn, it's 90% done. Now, what am I going to do? Stop now? So, Yeah, so that's where it's at. So anyway, that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
There's a couple of things I got, going on. I'm finally going to finish that book of Sebastian Ridge stories that I did. I wanted to have it finished before the what's the name of that damn book? Straight Out of Deadwood.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, because that's got a new Sebastian Ridge story in there. But I've got 5 that I did before that, which a lot of people haven't seen.
Oh, okay.
So I've got those in the book. So I'm finally going to put that out there. I wanted to have that out there before the other one came out, so people could have picked it up, but things didn't work out. So what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I just picked myself back up and start all over again.
And
so what are you working on?
Well, on my front, I got Lucifer Rising. It's the first book in the Morningstar series. It just came out a few weeks ago, actually. I think it came out about a month ago now, actually. It's a spin-off from my Luther Cross urban fantasy series, and so
cool.
So this has Lucifer coming up from hell, and I know some people are thinking, well, it's going to be just like the TV show. It's not. There's enough differences in it that I think you're going to find it an interesting read. So that's out now. That's up on Amazon. You can go to PercivalConstantine.com for more information on that. My other podcast, Japan on Film, the 4th season started about a month ago. And so by the time this comes out, I think, so about two episodes have been released so far with that. There's one where we talk about Throne of Blood, the old Akira Kurosawa Macbeth adaptation.
That's the one I gotta listen to. I love that movie, Throne of Blood.
You'll find some interesting stuff that we talked about, because that conversation went in interesting directions that neither me or Aaron, who was my guest on that episode, expected it to go in. So that discussion surprised both of us. We also talked about One Cut of the Dead in a recent episode, and next episode, which is going to be coming out probably a week after this one, is going to be talking about the Twilight Samurai. And after that, we're going to be recording next week, actually, but we haven't obviously recorded it yet, but it's on the schedule, is your friend and mine, Mark Buskett. He's going to be coming on, and he's going to be talking about Shin Godzilla.
Mark! He's going to be talking about Godzilla. That cat's been on a real Godzilla kick lately.
Oh, yeah. That's why because I saw him posting all these Godzilla reviews up, so I went to him and I said, hey, I've got Shin Godzilla, which was the last Japanese Godzilla film that was made, and I haven't watched it yet. Would you want to come on and talk about it? And he said, yeah, sure. We had to wait for him to find a break in his school schedule, because he's a lot busier guy than I am. But we were able to work it out, and so he's going to come on to talk about that. And then after that, another episode. We've got 2 more episodes on the schedule for this season, at least. And both of them are going to be covering really out there Japanese sci-fi. One is Message from Space, which was a Japanese Star Wars knockoff. And
is that the one with Starman?
Is that the one with what?
Starman.
What's the actor's name?
I don't know his name, but it's like a superhero is created by a consortium of aliens, and he's sent to Earth to battle these aliens. Never mind. It's not the same movie.
I don't think so. No. This is a 1978 movie. It was actually It's a low budget Star Wars ripoff. And oddly enough, directed by Kinji Fukasaku, who directed the Battle Royale and the Yakuza Papers movies, which are really serious, really good movies. But then he also directed this low budget sci-fi Star Wars knockoff. So it's going to be interesting talking about that.
The movie I'm thinking of was made back in the 1960s. But speaking of Godzilla, can I ask you one question real quick?
Yeah.
Why can't Americans make a good Godzilla movie? Matter of fact, American studios should not be allowed to make any more Godzilla movies.
What, you didn't like the last 2?
I just saw Godzilla King of the Monsters.
And you didn't like it?
Oh my God.
Really? I thought it was great. I like both of the last ones they made. The one they made in 2014, and then King of the Monsters. And yeah, I liked them both, and I'm looking forward to Godzilla versus Kong.
I like the one in 2-4. That's the one with Matthew Broderick?
No, that was the one in 1999 or something like that, 97.
So what's the one in 2014?
That was the one with Ken Watanabe. King of the Monsters is the sequel to that one. And it also had maybe not, because it also had Bryan Cranston had a small part in it, and
that's the one where we never see Godzilla.
Right? Yeah. He comes out at the end, but yeah, mostly you don't really see him. Boy, you like the Matthew Broderick one?
Okay, now wait a minute, hold on, before you rag on me. It's a good monster movie, but it's not a good Godzilla movie.
Okay.
yeah, I caught it. What you think? I caught that.
It's a good thing this is the superhero cinephile show, because if you were saying that on my Japan podcast, I think that some people might start rioting.
Yeah. I know. Well, you know what? When it comes to Godzilla movies, my taste is very eclectic. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, Godzilla King of the Monsters. First of all, Godzilla was fat.
Mm-hmm.
He was a fat Godzilla. Who needs a fat Godzilla?
He's not fat. He's just big boned. All right. Why do you got to body shame Godzilla?
And I felt that the creatures in this movie, first of all, they were way too big and too powerful.
Well, you got the effects. You might as well go all out. That's what I thought they were trying to do with that.
Yeah. There's that. Okay. I don't know.
I liked it. It was because I went into that movie, and all I wanted was to watch Godzilla and a bunch of monsters fighting for the better part of 2 hours. And you know what? I got that. I'm happy.
Well, you got that. Yeah. I mean, definitely. If that's what you want from a Godzilla movie, that's definitely what you got. You got monsters.
I do love the more serious Godzilla movies. Like the original one is amazing. It's a work of art. I haven't seen Shin Godzilla yet, but I'm gonna be watching it soon to prepare for my interview with Mark. But from what I've heard of it, it also is in that more serious vein. But the sad truth is that for most of Godzilla's existence, it has just been giant monsters beating the crap out of each other.
Well, which is what it's supposed to be. I mean, listen, as far as I'm concerned, give me Godzilla, give me Mothra, especially when it's got but see, I like the ones from the 60s, where it had them two little broads that started singing, they kept them in the box, and they would come out, ooh la, Mothra, and as soon as them chicks start that shit, it was about to get real, because Mothra was going to show up. Oh, I love them chicks. Oh, yeah, but that one, the three-headed monster,
Ghidorah.
As long as you give me them three in a movie, I'm happy. Rodan and...
You got all three of them in King of the Monsters.
Yeah. So, I'm cool.
All right. Now, very last thing is next episode, next 3 episodes, actually. So this is my pick now, and I'm really excited to do these next 3 episodes with you, because this is something I've been wanting to talk about ever since it came out, and we are going to be covering the entire first season of Watchmen. We're splitting up. We're going to be covering all 9 episodes, and because there is so much to talk about in each one of these episodes, we're going to be covering them over the course of 3 episodes. So in the next episode, we're going to be talking about only the first 3 episodes of the Watchmen TV show.
Right.
And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
The second one, we do the next 3, and the 3rd episode, the last. So I'm looking forward to doing this too. I'm going to go back. I'm going to rewatch all these episodes obsessively and take obsessive notes on stuff.
Yeah, because there's just so much into it. So yeah, it's going to be.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much in it.
Yeah, because this. I don't know about you, but for me, for my money, that's easily the best TV show of 2019, maybe the best TV show of the decade.
Well, I haven't seen a lot of TV shows, so I wouldn't go there. But I will say that if you talk about the best thing I saw, as far as TV shows go, 2019, Watchmen was it.
Yeah, this is actually
even my wife will like Watchmen, and my wife don't got nothing for no superhero movies at all. But she loved Watchmen.
Yeah.
So a lot of people I know don't like superhero movies. They only watched it because of of who was in it, of course, who was starring in it. They say, okay, well, I'm going to watch it because she's in it. They ended up loving it.
Yeah. Well, it got so much press. It got so much coverage, like stuff that people who don't usually like superhero stuff, like you said, like Patricia, they loved this show, and there's just like, folks, we're going to get into it, and we're really going to go in deep with this because there's just so much to talk about. And
but let me just say this real quick. I think, and I'll go into this more in detail, but I think that the reason why people liked it so much is because, just like the movie that we were talking about now, see how I brought that back, folks? Abar, the last black, it wasn't just about superheroes and superpowers.
Right.
And I think that in order, you need shows like Watchmen to show people who are not into superheroes like me and you and a lot of our fans and friends and listeners of this podcast. See, we're all into stuff with superheroes simply because we're into superheroes.
Right.
But if you want to get people who don't know anything about superheroes and get them to watch it, it's got to be about something more than the costumes and the powers and people punching each other through walls.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what the show does very well. So, yeah. And this is going to be the first time we're actually covering a TV show. Like, I know we did Crisis, but Crisis I look at as a movie that aired on TV.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah, but this is something...
And as a matter of fact, I think that whenever they put... I don't know if it's out on Blu-ray yet, but I think that's what they should do. They should edit it into one 5-hour, 4-hour movie.
Well, I don't know about in the States, but in Japan they actually did that with some of these CW crossovers. Like they had, like I've been in the video store and I saw Crisis on Earth X was there on the shelf as one whole uncut video.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they should do because that's what those crossovers actually are.
Yeah,
they're movies.
Yeah, they're movies. They're just split up and aired on TV. So yeah, exactly. This is going to be the first TV show. Like mostly we're covering movies on this show. Some people have asked us, "Are you going to be doing this TV series? Going to be doing this TV?" Folks, mostly we're trying to focus on movies. When we do a TV show, it's going to be because there's a really special reason for it, at least for the time being, I think.
Right. So we're not going to, if there is a TV show that you want us to talk about or anything like that, you got to give us a compelling reason to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Don't just, well, I think it would be cool that you would, well, yeah, be cool if I did a lot of things, but but I don't do them, I don't do them, I mean, and don't get me wrong, I appreciate the fact that you like listening to us and you like listening to rant, rave, and pontificate and go off on tangents about the stuff and everything like that, but still, we're trying to maintain a certain level of professionalism and focus here. So
yeah, we'll talk. Oh well, that's actually a good segue. And the last thing is, don't forget we got a Patreon page. So if you go to patreon.com/supercinemapod, you can donate to the show because you know what, we got bills to pay too, folks. We gotta pay for hosting service. We got to pay for programs to run the show to make sure it sounds good coming in. So if you can give us a little bit there, it helps us out. If you can kick in a few bucks a month is all it really takes.
And quite frankly, the best way to get me to do anything is to throw money at me.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh boy.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Well, Derek, thanks again for another great episode. And
thank you. Who else do I have to talk about this stuff with except for you? You're doing me a favor. If I didn't have you to talk to when do we do this? Like every week, every other week?
Every other week, yeah.
Every other week, yeah. Who else do I have to talk to this stuff about?
Oh, yeah. It's been one of the highlights of my months is coming in and doing these episodes with you twice a month.
Yeah.
All right, folks, hopefully you agree. And make sure you visit us on the web, superherocinephiles.com, Facebook group, Superhero Cinephiles. And I just started an Instagram page for us, Super Cinema Pod. So you can follow us on Instagram. At the time we're recording this, there's nothing up there yet, but I'm going to start posting some images and stuff on there of superhero movies and that kind of stuff.
And I'll do the same.
Yeah, okay. All right, thanks a lot, and we will talk to you next time.
Okay, good night. God bless. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. If you have any questions or comments about this or any other episode, or if you have a superhero movie or TV show you'd like us to cover in a future episode, you can email us at superherocinephiles@gmail.com, or you can also visit us on the web at superherocinephiles.com. If you like what you hear, leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. Each review helps us reach more potential listeners. You can also support the show by renting or purchasing the movies discussed, or by picking up our books, all of which can be accessed through the website, as well as find links to our social media presences. The theme music for this show is a shortened version of Superhero Showdown, a royalty-free piece of music courtesy of Fezleon Studios